In 1909, when the newspapers announced the loss of a Great Lakes freighter and provided a list of the names of those aboard, the mariners ashore would read the list with sorrow. Often they had sailed with some of those who were on that list. On July 14, 1909, in a Dunkirk, New York tavern, such was not the case for Fred Adset, as he read the list of his former shipmates. Instead of grief, he celebrated. Waving the newspaper around the saloon, he boasted that now the cops would never catch him, because he was at the bottom of Lake Superior. You see, he had been indicted by a grand jury for the burglary of the L.Y. Miller Company and the theft of more than $10,000 worth of hides. Before the constables could catch and arrest him, he had signed aboard a Great Lakes freighter in Buffalo and sailed away to Superior, Wisconsin. Once there, he jumped ship and sailed back down to Dunkirk, New York, aboard a different freighter. Now the freighter he had left Buffalo aboard had gone to the bottom and taken more than a dozen crew with her. The newspaper listed the names, and Fred Adset was the last name on the list. Apparently, no one had listed him as having jumped ship. Yes, indeed, Adset was sure he managed to escape the law. Although the Sioux Canal is well known for the locks, the gift shops, and the ability of visitors to get up close to passing lake boats, it is also well known for something else. Fog. From the spring to the late summer, the fog at the Sioux seems highly unpredictable. It settles in silently. Sometimes it makes for great photography. The huge lake boats seem garnished by the mist as they pass, and slowly vanish. Guided by modern radar and GPS navigation, they slowly make their way along the St. Mary's River. Occasionally, however, the fog would become so dense that Sioux Control actually will shut down the traffic. In 1909, however, there was no such thing as GPS or radar or Sioux Control. It was up to each captain to operate his vessel. And a freighter only makes money when it's moving. In fog, they used to do so by way of whistle signals and magnetic compass. There was also Pilot Rule number 2 and number 15. At 2 o'clock on the morning of July 12, 1909, the big steamers Isaac M. Scott and Frank H. Goodyear hissed quietly out of the Sioux locks upbound. Having been launched exactly 1 month earlier, the Scott was on her maiden voyage under the command of Captain MacArthur. The Goodyear, under the command of Captain Heminger, took her place in the Scott's wake as they headed into the blackness of the upper St. Mary's River. There is no record as to when the fog was actually encountered. In that era, the boats just kept running, and the captains shrugged off the weather. Pilot Rule 15 stated that the pilot of a steamship shall proceed at moderate speed in thick weather. 3½ hours after leaving the Sioux, Captain Heminger had the Goodyear approaching the Whitefish Point lighthouse and fog signal. He was in heavy fog, and although the Scott was just ahead of him, he couldn't even see her lights. That was about a 40-mile cruise in just 3½ hours, which works out to an average speed of just over 11½ miles per hour. Pretty much full speed for an oarboat of that era. So much for Rule 15. Suddenly a series of steam whistle blasts echoed in the fog ahead. There followed a deep rumble like distant thunder, in turn followed by more whistle blasts. And then, after a moan of silence, there was the metallic groan of tortured steel. Captain Heminger rang stop on the engine telegraph. Then came another low rumble, followed by screams and shouts. Men were in the water. Now he shifted the Goodyear's engine telegraph to slow ahead. As he was creeping the Goodyear ahead toward the sounds of disaster, he would need all hands on deck to watch out for survivors. Soon the lights of the Scott came into view, and as the Goodyear closed, Captain Heminger could see that she was lowering her own lifeboats. Indeed, it was soon evident that there were men and wreckage in the water, and the Goodyear's captain ordered his own lifeboats into the water. Once they were sure that all who could be saved had been saved, and that the Scott was not in a sinking condition, the Goodyear continued upbound to Duluth. The Scott limped back to the Sioux with a damaged bow. In the weeks ahead, she would be easily repaired. What they left behind was the gravesite of the 436-foot-long freighter John B. Cole, and as many as 14 of her crew. The Scott had collided with the 7-year-old ore-laden downbound Cole, hitting her amidships. That ore boat sank in just 3 minutes. In less than a year, the Goodyear herself would be wreckage on the bottom of the lakes. And in November of 1913, the Scott would also become a wreck. She would be one of the famed vessels to go missing in the Great Storm of 1913. As a result of the sinking, the Cole's captain, W.G. Rogers, had his license suspended for 30 days. And the boat's mate, Edmund Carleton, also was issued a 30-day suspension, both for breaking Rule 15. Fortunately, unlike 14 of their fellow crewmen, both had survived the wreck. The mate of the Scott, F.W. Wertheimer, was suspended for 1 year. Wertheimer had also been found guilty of breaking Rule 15, plus breaking Rule 2, which stated that when the pilot fails to understand the course or intention of an approaching vessel, he will sound the danger signal and shall slow to a stop. Captain MacArthur was found to be officially off duty at the time of the collision, and no action was taken against him. Now you may ask, what about Fred Adsit? Did he get away with his fake death and his crime of grand theft? Well, it appears that old Fred boasted a bit too much, and too many ears heard it. He, along with the fact that he was working at a local farm near Little Valley, New York, was soon turned in to the local sheriff. On August 3rd, he found himself behind bars.